After just a few small moves, in today's episode of Locked On Pistons Podcast, we will grade the Detroit Pistons offseason. Stay tuned. Today's episode, Locked On Pistons Podcast. Let's go.
You are Locked On Pistons, your daily Detroit Pistons podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the deal? Welcome back to another episode of the Locked On Pistons Podcast. Per usual, I am your host, Ku Khahil. You can find me over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. I want to thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. I've been covering the Detroit Pistons for the Locked On Network over the last 4 years. I've been a credential media member over the last 3 years. Again, I appreciate all of you guys, all the everydayers that make Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. And today's episode, is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. In today's episode, we'll be answering all the questions that you guys sent in for today's mailbag episode. We'll be discussing a grade for the Detroit Pistons offseason, the key for the Pistons taking the next step, and what is the Pistons' answer at the backup four position, something we've talked about a ton on the podcast that the Pistons desperately need. We'll break it all down and a bunch of other questions that were asked as well from all of you guys. We did pass, on the last episode, I got a little too ahead of myself. I realized that one of you guys said in the comments, got a little too ahead of myself. I said we were a few subscribers away from 12,000 subs. That wasn't the case. We were a few subscribers away from 11.2K subs. So we're 800 away from 12K. Help us get there if you're listening, watching, haven't subscribed. Hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. But let's go ahead and get into today's episode. Like I said, today is a mailbag episode. If you guys want to be a part of a mailbag episode in the future, follow me on Twitter. Tweet me a question over there, comment down below, ask Ku, or go in the community tab over on our YouTube channel and ask a question over there, participate with the community, all that good stuff. But let's go ahead and get into it. The first question that was asked was, Ku, what would you grade the Detroit Pistons offseason? And this is good. This is a fun question because I see a lot of fans. There's like a section of the fan base that feels like this offseason was not good at all, and the Pistons didn't do anything to really get better. So, and then there's another part of the fan base that feels like this was great. So there's really a divide. So before I give my grade, I just want to run through the whole Pistons, the Pistons whole offseason. You have to have the context. We have to start with this context that Malik Beasley, a day before free agency, the gambling stuff comes out. And if you haven't listened or watched Pablo Torres, it was an hour plus long video on the investigation into Malik Beasley and the gambling. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's pretty crazy stuff. But you gotta have the context that a day before free agency started, the whole thing with Malik Beasley blew up. And according to Shams, and according to multiple reports, and Trajan himself, when he was talking about it at Summer League, it does not seem like the Pistons knew that this was going to get dropped the day before. They were ready to give Beasley a 3-year contract with a team option on the last year. That's what they were prepared to do. They were not expecting this to be dropped the day before and then had to pivot at the last second. Trajan didn't have any time really to. Now, I'm sure that they had some kind of backup plans, break the safe kind of plans. But I don't think they obviously weren't expecting to lose Beasley, and they had to pivot the day before. So with that said, I think everything has to be taken into the context of that, because that is it's unlucky, and you can't really predict that. You can't see that coming. There's nothing you can really do about that. With that said, I think they went out and got the best possible replacement for Malik Beasley in Duncan Robinson. I think they did do that. They needed somebody who could come in and have the movement shooting, provide some of the same stuff that Malik did as a movement shooter, and allow them to still run some of the actions that they ran, some of those DHOs, the pin downs, the flare screens, the double drags into a flare with their shooter. Like, they needed someone that is capable of hitting those type of plays. Guard on guard screens when the guy flaring out is a threat from deep. Now, you can run some of that a little bit with Jaden Ivey, but the threat of Malik Beasley was so crazy this past year because of how great he was. They needed someone else that could do it, and they have it now in Duncan Robinson. And I think some people, myself included, outside this past year, believe Duncan Robinson is better than Malik Beasley. Now, if Malik Beasley was going to show up this year and shoot 300 threes again, make 300 threes again, then okay, that wouldn't be the case. But for the majority of the careers outside this past one, Duncan was better than Malik. He's a better playmaker. He's a better finisher at the rim. He moves within the offense a lot more, and he knows how to utilize that movement to be a weapon a lot more, especially on backdoor cuts to keep the defense engaged. So I thought they upgraded there. Maybe not upgraded. At the very least, they stayed the same. Stayed the same at that position. Again, maybe Duncan's probably not going to replicate what Malik did this past year, but what you would have expected Malik to do this year, you hope, at least I think Duncan should be able to do that. Because I don't think anyone was expecting Malik to be Klay Thompson again this year. So there's that. Then they got Caris LeVert, which you guys know I'm not a fan of Caris LeVert's. But if I want to look at it the most positive way, despite my feelings of Caris LeVert through the majority of his career, this past season he had a good season and was efficient. If he is the player he was this past year, especially the player he was for Atlanta and not the player you saw the first 7 years of his career, then it could be a good signing. He has size. He does bring some self-creation in the half court. He does have some scoring ability. He played a lot better defense with the Atlanta Hawks the back end of this last year. So if he's able to bring some size, which he's going to be able to do, but bring some size defensively, some efficient scoring within the half court, and balance out some of the playmaking abilities and ball handling responsibilities that left with Dennis Schroeder, who went to the Kings. If that happens, that should also be a wash between him and Dennis Schroeder. At the least, that should be a wash. At the very least, it should be, if he is the player he was this past year. That's free agency. Then you go into the draft, and they took Chaz Lanier. Now, look, we're a few games into Summer League. I can be honest and tell you guys I spoke with a few scouts, spoke with a few guys who do the draft, content, along with a few scouts. I can tell you guys right now, talking to the people I talked to, they were not high on the pick of Chaz Lanier. Now, he is an incredible shooter, but almost everyone I talked to that does draft content, and I talked to 3 scouts. The 3 scouts that I talked with, while they spoke very highly of Chaz as a shooter, as an NBA prospect, they weren't that high on him, and they thought there were some other prospects that the Pistons could have utilized at that position. Now, we have to wait till the regular season plays out. We'll see how Chaz's career looks to really judge it. But if we're being objective, based on how, draft boards and how these scouts felt, now, obviously, Trajan feels a different way, or you want to draft Chaz. So I guess you have to put that grade as incomplete. I guess, you can't really grade until we actually see what Chaz looks like in the regular season, though I feel like through Summer League, you have started to see some of the concerns that these scouts had with Chaz when it comes to what he's able to do with the ball in his hands, attacking closeouts, getting to the rim, anything like that. Hasn't been able to really do it in Summer League, but it's Summer League. That's an incomplete grade. We're not going to grade that. He did get, Trajan that is, get a TPE back for Dennis Schroeder. Didn't just lose him for nothing. We'll see if they actually use it, but they didn't just lose him for nothing. They did get something in return for Schroeder, which, at the very least, was somewhat savvy. I think, with all that said, the Pistons offseason, I think, and they brought back Paul Reed, but, I don't think that's, truly matters at this point, or really is, weighing the scales here with the grade. I would give the Pistons a C+. The only reason why I'm not giving them a flat C is because when you take into account them having to pivot from the Beasley stuff, them being able to get what they did at the last second pivoting, I give them some credit for. So I'll give them a C+. The reason why I give them a C+ is I don't think it was a bad offseason. I don't think they failed. I don't think they went backwards. I think at the very least they stayed the same. I also don't know if you can make a strong argument that just from the offseason, I don't know if you can make an argument that they've gotten better. I think you can make an argument that they basically are the same. They basically are the same team as they were last year. You can maybe make an argument they're slightly better. You could maybe make an argument that they're slightly worse, just based off-season movement. The Pistons taking the next step, win-loss-wise in the regular season, will all come down to their young guys. If their young guys take a step forward, they'll win more games this year. If they don't, you might see some, you might see them fall backwards a little bit. but it's all going to be about the young guys. So while that is true, and we'll see how it actually plays out in the regular season, as far as just the offseason, I mean, yeah, I mean, it was fine. They stayed lateral. They didn't get worse. They lost some players. They did a good job at least replacing them. So, like, they didn't do anything crazy in the draft. They didn't trade up and get a great prospect. Like, they didn't do nothing crazy. So I'll give them a passing grade. You passed. You didn't wow me this offseason. You also didn't really disappoint me this offseason. It was just like, okay, that's fine. So I'll give it a C+ when you take into account that they had to do this off the heels of the Malik Beasley stuff. So I'll give it a C+. I think that's a fine grade. And just because I'm grading the offseason as a C+, doesn't mean the Pistons can't have an A+ season. If the young guys get better, that doesn't have anything to do with the offseason. That has everything to do with them taking the next step in the regular season, and they'll get better. The team will get better. And then we can grade the season as an A. Just because the offseason I'm grading as a C+ doesn't mean the Pistons can't have a great year. Doesn't matter of the acquisitions. They were fine. Nothing crazy. They were all right. So let me know. Comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. How do you feel about the Detroit Pistons offseason? What would you guys grade the Detroit Pistons offseason? Again, let me know in the comment section down below or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. Coming up, next question that was asked a ton was, what's the biggest key to the Pistons taking the next step this upcoming season? We'll break it down coming up. If you're running a business, you know that every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you had an urgent need, maybe for a plumber or a service provider. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait for him? Probably not. You moved on to the next person that could help you out. And that's why you need OpenPhone. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system built to streamline and scale your customer communications, all from an app on your phone or computer. The shared inbox feature is a game changer. Your team can jump into any conversation instantly without missing a boat. And their AI agent handles after-hour calls, answers common questions, and captures leads so you never miss a customer. OpenPhone is offering my listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. That's openphone.com/LockedOnNBA. If you have existing numbers with another service, OpenPhone will port them over at no extra charge. OpenPhone, no missed calls, no missed customers with OpenPhone. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We are free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, head to the YouTube channel at Locked On Pistons. Hit that subscribe button or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Go in the description down below. Check out the Substack. Check out the Playback. Check out the Twitch. I've been streaming the last few days every morning, playing some games. If you want to come join us over there, talk to me about some Pistons, talk to me about whatever while we play some games, head out over there. I got some content coming to you guys with the Substack. I know I told you guys we were going to do some film breakdowns of the Summer League at the Substack, and I've been trying, but nowhere I've been able to find keeps clips of the Summer League. And my PC won't clip anything that I watch on it through ESPN or anything because it just blacks out because copyright, whatever. So I can't find any clips to really do Summer League. So unless I just only looked at the highlights, which isn't fun because that's not really the players I really want to break down, it doesn't look like I'm going to be able to do film breakdowns of the Summer League, which I'm really disappointed by. That's what I was really looking forward to do. So we'll probably just do some written breakdowns over there, over on Ron Holland's Summer League and Dan Shankins, etc. But I just wanted to apologize for not being able to do the film breakdown. I was really looking forward to it. I've been hyping you guys up, but literally, if you guys happen to know a site that's keeping track of Summer League highlights or plays, let me know. But NBA.com's not doing it. Shot Creator isn't doing it. Cleaning the Glass isn't doing it. I haven't been able to find it anywhere. So I apologize for that, but we'll figure something else out. Anyways, let's move forward. One of the other questions that we got a lot, we got this question numerous times, was which player do you think is key to going further than last season? So I'm going to have 3 players here, and I'll rank them. And I want to hear you guys' ranking. I know some of you guys are going to have this ranking completely flip-flop because I know the fans of a certain player that listen to the podcast are very strong in their belief, and good for them. But I know they're going to have this completely flipped. Number 1, Ausar Thompson. Ausar Thompson is the biggest key to the Pistons taking the next jump. Ausar Thompson is not perfect. He has things he has to work on. He has to become a better three-point shooter, obviously. A shooter from anywhere. Even though the free throw shooting got better and better as the season went on, if you look at the numbers. We talked about that a few episodes ago. It slowly started getting up to 70 plus, as you do like the last 20, last 15, last 10 games of the season, whatever. But he has to improve as a shooter. He has to improve his ball handling. That is true. What is also true, that with him being this quote-unquote, which, by the way, I've been seeing this talk about the Thompson twins being a project. Projects are, I just have to go on this rant just real quickly, guys. Projects are guys like Sekou Doumbouya, guys like Tijan Salan, guys like Alex Sarr, guys like Bilal Koulibaly. It's players like that don't, as prospects, don't really have legit NBA skills yet, but just simply have tools that you believe you can craft them. They're basically a ball of clay that you can craft them however you want. They're young, usually. I don't think you see older projects. The reason why they're called projects is because you can craft them, you can create whatever you want out of them because they have a bunch of tools that haven't been developed at all yet. The Thompson twins were not projects. The Thompson twins, the only people who considered the Thompson twins projects ahead of the draft were the ones who immediately penciled them as projects because they played at OT. Not because they looked at film, not because they actually scouted them. It was simply because of the idiotic rhetoric around the talk around them, simply because they played at OTE. And this was a bar from Troy Weaver. I'll give it to him. Halle Berry is fine in a grocery store, in the dollar store, wherever you find her, she is fine. Doesn't matter that the league they played in sucked. The Thompson twins, even more so on men, but even Ausar, they had elite athleticism. They had elite feel. Had really good playmaking abilities. Processed the game extremely highly. Had great feel and great processing. Already showcased the elite defense. Combined with generational athleticism, which allows them to not have to be so tight on the margins. You combine elite processor, good passers, and great defenders with generational athleticism. That is why, and this is why we'll tie it back into Ausar being the key for the next step. That's why Ausar Thompson, despite not having an offseason to improve, coming off a blood clot, not touching a basketball, being able to play basketball for 9 months, being on low conditioning, that is why he is able to just be dropped in the NBA floor and instantly change a team's defense. Projects don't do that. You can't. Projects would not be able to have no offseason of developing, coming off a blood clot, going 9 months without playing basketball and get dropped in the hardest league in the world and instantly change your team's trajectory. Projects don't do that. You can't. That doesn't happen. If that's a project, every prospect is a project in the NBA draft. That was my rant. But I still tied it into why Ausar is the biggest key. Because he came through half the season, with no development, no training, no stamina, no improvement because of the blood clot, got dropped in the middle of the season, turned the Pistons defense from 28th in the NBA in December, defensive rating, to a top 6 defensive rating the rest of the year out. The Pistons were playing at like a 50-win pace once Ausar became healthy and started in the lineup. They were below 500 before he came back. Ausar Thompson simply being there, even if, this is the thing, this is the strongest part of this argument for why Ausar is number one. Even, let's just say Ausar doesn't get better, which I don't think is possible. But let's just say he is the exact same player that he was last year. If you have that exact same player last year for 80-plus games this year instead of 40-plus, and half the season, you will play like you did in the back half of the season for an entire season this year. And that right there already makes you take a jump. That's if he just stayed the same. If he just stayed the same, simply having Ausar on the floor this year for 30-plus minutes and for the whole season will allow the Pistons to look like the team they looked like after January for an entire season, and they'll win close to 50. They should win closer to 50 games. At least that was the pace they were on after January. Now, if Ausar improves, they'll take a leap. I don't think there's another player on this team that could take a leap that would have as large of an impact as Ausar Thompson. If Ausar Thompson improved offensively, you have a top, 70 player or instantly? Top 60, maybe even a top 50 player. If he were to improve offensively, as long with being one of the best defenders in the league, all defensive caliber, and now all of a sudden he's able to handle the rock and run the offense for you and do stuff like that, like he's jumping literally like 60 spots. That like a two-way guy like that is like 60 spot jump. And the impact on the team would be absurd. It would be absurd. So Ausar is number one for me. The second player, I actually will stun some people. I will go with Jaden Ivey over Jalen Duren. I think Jaden Ivey simply, if he were to take a jump in regards of, okay, I can handle the backup point guard minutes, our offense will not fall apart when I enter the floor and Cade's off of it. I've improved as a lead initiator. I've improved as a finisher at the rim. I think that helps more than a realistic improvement from Duren, in my opinion, because that means when Cade comes off the floor, your offense isn't falling off the face of the earth. If Ivey is able to improve as a lead initiator to where the non-Cade minutes with Ivey is no longer a negative net rating, it was a minus 3.28. If that becomes a positive net rating and the offense doesn't fall apart and Ivey is able to keep the offense afloat without Cade on the floor, then I think that has a larger impact on what I believe is possible for Duren this year. The Pistons being able to survive with Cade off the floor makes it, I think that just has such a large impact on their ability to win games. There were so many times we watched this past year, especially at the beginning of the fourth quarter, because Cade would rest at the beginning of the fourth, then he'd come in, and then he'd come out a little bit like in the 4-minute mark, 5-minute mark, rest for like a minute and a half, then come back in. Those stretches right there, that's where when the Pistons lost games, those stretches usually killed them. If they have Ivey, and Ivey has improved as a lead ball handler and a scorer, an individual scorer with the ball in his hands, the offense should float during those minutes. Doesn't have to be dominant, but if they can just float and then Cade comes back in and you guys can keep winning, I think that would have a large impact on this team. So I'll put Ivey second, and then I put Duren third, simply because I don't believe that what Duren would have to improve on to have this enormous impact, he would have to become a really good defender. Like him becoming slightly better in the DHO, or him being able to take more handoffs to the rim, DHOs to the rim from the high post area. That's cool. And it definitely would make the team better. I'm not trying to say it wouldn't make the team better. I don't think that those improvements are making the team, are having as large of an impact as Ausar improving offensively or Ivey becoming a legit lead initiator. I don't think it matches that. The only thing that would match those two's impact would be if Duren entered this season all of a sudden a really good defender and he's anchoring your defense, which I don't know is realistic. Could he get better? Yes, I expect him to get better. I hope he gets better. But he would have to become like a legit good defender in his own right. And I don't know if that's something that's going to happen this year. So that's why I'd put Duren third. That doesn't mean he doesn't have an impact on the team. Doesn't mean I don't think he's going to have an impact on them winning. That's not the case at all. Just who of those three guys, how would I rank their potential impact if they improve on the team's win-loss column? I put it Ausar, Ivey, and Duren. So that's where I'm at. Let me know, comment section down below, or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil, how you guys would rank it. Or is there another player? Maybe it's not any of those three that you guys feel like. Maybe there's another player that you guys maybe feel like is the biggest key for them taking the next step. Let me know again, comment section down below, or over on Twitter at Ku Khahil. Coming up, what's the Pistons' answer to the backup four situation? Is it Bobby Klitman still, despite what we're seeing in Summer League? Who is it? We'll break it down coming up. Ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending all in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. Have you ever looked at your spending, and been surprised by how fast it adds up? I know I did. When I got Monarch Money, I saw just how much I was spending on DoorDash. I love DoorDash. It's great. I still use it, but was using it maybe a little too much, spending a little too much money on it. So Monarch Money helped me budget that and cut back on the spending a little bit with the delivery food services. So you can take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year with Monarch Money. So I want to thank you guys again for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day, free and available on all your podcast platforms. I appreciate all the everydayers out there. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this on. That's another great way to support the podcast. Check out the description down below. Substack, Playback, Twitch, all that good stuff. Let's get into the next questions that were asked by you guys for today's mailbag episode. Next question is, who do you believe will truly fill the backup 4 role for the Detroit Pistons? So we've went over this a little bit, and I kind of crafted my rotation for the Detroit Pistons to you guys. This is how I picture this happening. So obviously the starting lineup, I think you'll have Cade, Ivey, Ausar, Tobias, Duren. I think that's your starting lineup right there. I think the Pistons will go 9 deep. I think it will be Caris LeVert, Duncan Robinson, Isaiah Stewart, and Ron Holland. I think that's your 4-man off the bench. Now, I'm sure he'll sprinkle in, a 10th guy, a Sasser maybe, every now and then to get them some minutes. Maybe they play like a 7 minutes per game, like something like that. Kind of like how we saw with Fontecchio. He played like maybe 9 minutes in one game. Next game, maybe if he's playing well, he'll get 18 minutes, and then sometimes he'll just be completely out of the rotation, that kind of thing. But I think it's going to be mainly a 9-man rotation. And how I think the Pistons will handle this is obviously the starters I think Cade will play like 30-plus minutes, etc. The minute totals don't really matter. I think this is what I really care about. Point guard, I think it will be Cade, and then Caris and Jaden Ivey will split their minutes. I think that's where those 3 minutes come from at the point guard position. Cade, Ivey, and Caris, right? Then at the 2-guard position, I believe Ivey, Caris, and even Duncan may split some minutes there, right? Then at the 3 position, I think will be split between Ausar, Ron, and Duncan, right? At the 5 position, I think will be split between Stu and Duren. And then at the 4 position, I think you will have a 3-way split of Tobias, Ausar, Ron. And the reason why I think Ausar, Ron will be taking up the backup 4 minutes, because if you look at the rotation, so all the minutes of the point guard position are taken up. The 2-guard position is really going to be taken up maybe by Ausar. Maybe Ausar takes some minutes there, or maybe Ron takes some minutes there, but I don't see that happening too much. I think Ivey takes up a boatload of those minutes. I think Duncan may take up some of those minutes as well. I definitely think Caris will take a lot of those minutes. So I think the 1 and 2 position are going to take up a lot of minutes. Ausar, you want him to play 30 minutes this year. I think you want him to play 30-plus minutes. So I think Ausar will probably play something like 16 minutes at the 3, 14 minutes at the 4. I think something like that will happen. You also want Ron to play more than 20 minutes a game this year. You want him to take another step and play him a lot more. So I think Ron will then play something like 16 minutes at the 3, 10 minutes at the 4, something like that, right? So then you have, what are you looking at there? You got 22 minutes, maybe cut it a little less at the 4 for Ausar, give him more minutes at the 3, and then give Ron more minutes. But you guys get what I'm saying. I think the way in which, because they want to give Ron more minutes, and Ausar has to play 30-plus minutes this year, I think. The only way to make that work is if you have them both split minutes at the 3. They basically split those in half, maybe. Maybe Ausar plays a little bit more there at the 3. And then they also split the minutes at the backup 4 position. Therefore, you can fit Ausar with 30-plus minutes, and then Ron getting more than 20-plus, getting like 25. Try to get him 25 around there. So I think that's the Pistons' plan at the backup 4 position. My concern is not really about just the backup 4 at this point, because I've accepted that they want to give Ausar and Ron those minutes. I've accepted that. My concern is that they don't have a third 4. And that, in the case of, knock on wood, Tobias goes down, I'm assuming if that were to happen, I'm assuming the idea was, okay, we move Ausar up to the 4 in the starting lineup, we bring in Duncan Robinson, and you play like that. That's my assumption. But then, so what, is Ausar playing all of his minutes at the 4, and then Ron's playing a majority of his minutes at the 4 too? Like, is that really just your 4 rotation? Is that really where you want them spending most of their minutes if Tobias were to go down at any point? I don't think so. I think you'd like to have another 4. So I really hope they use their biannual exception on getting just a third string 4. Like, it doesn't have to be someone that wants to get minutes. Just someone, if something were to happen, you feel confident that they can soak up minutes and play big for you. That's all I care about with that. But that's how I think the backup 4 is going to go for the Detroit Pistons. Here's a question I thought was really interesting. I really like this question. This was on Twitter from Discomfort. Said, rank these as the most valuable to least valuable to Cade running mates. So he says elite defender, elite shooter, elite playmaker, elite vertical spacer, and elite play finisher. So, and then the bonus question is, what combination of the 2 above into one player would be the ideal second fiddle to Cade? I think this is a really cool question. I think by far number 1, so I'm a combine 4 and 5, the vertical spacer and play finisher, because that's basically the same to me. The vertical spacer, the lob finisher, that's a guy that's finishing plays. I understand there's other ways to finish plays like cuts, catch and shoot. Like, I get all that. Just basically play finishers are guys that are players that don't create their own looks. They finish plays that others create for them. And that's basically what lob threats are. So I'm going to put the vertical spacer and play finisher into the same. And I think that's number 1 for Cade probably. Cade loves throwing lobs. He loves having a lob threat on the floor. He loves utilizing vertical spacing, especially in the pick and roll, whether it's Duren or Ausar. I think that's pretty important for Cade. So I'd probably put that 1. The second one, I'd probably put... I wanted to say elite shooter. But we saw the impact of Ausar this past year and how well the minutes with Ausar and Cade were this past year. And the Pistons' whole identity and how they became great, or really good, let's not say great, but really good this past year, was because of their defense. So that's a close one. I'm going to say shooter just because spacing is so important for a player like Cade. Defenses, too. Having great defense with them obviously leads to success. But having elite shooting and spacing on the floor just opens up the driving lanes way more, and it makes it to where he's not playing in a phone booth anymore, which is such a big deal this past year and why his efficiency got better. So I'd go lob threat, elite shooter, elite defender, and then elite playmaker. Those are the 4. That's how I'd rank them. Lob or play finisher, shooter, defender, playmaker. If I had to combine the 2 to be the next second or the best possible second fiddle next to Cade, I think it has to be elite shooter and elite playmaker. Or actually, I take that back. Take that back. I said that wrong. That's not what I meant to say. I meant to say elite shooter and elite defender. Ideally, you'd like to see, if one of my options were elite shot creator and elite defense, that's what I would have went with. But elite defender and play finisher is basically Ausar already. And they haven't had someone who's an elite shooter and then also an elite defender. They haven't had a legit 2-way scorer. So I think that's the best second fiddle next to Cade. Someone who can give some stuff offensively and then also be electric defensively, which is why everyone knows I'm super high in Ausar, which is why I believe it doesn't have to be shooting. I know, like, that with what I was given, I had to pick shooting. But even if you just take Ausar, his elite defense, and then you took, like, improved, like, good offensive game to where he's playmaking, he's taking playmaking responsibilities off of Cade, he's getting to the paint, he's finishing at the rim. Like, that's a 2-way player right there. It doesn't have, 2-way players are not just shooters. It's not just 3-and-D. It's guys who can impact offensively, do their own thing offensively, and then also be great defensively, which is why I think Ausar has the best chance to be a second fiddle and be great with Cade, because I think those players are the most impactful ones. But I think that was a really interesting question. I love that question. It was fun. So let me know what your guys' answer to that. I'd love to hear your guys' answer to this one. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you guys for making Locked On Pistons your first listen of every single day. We're free and available on all your podcast platforms. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe on the YouTube channel. Leave us a 5-star review, whatever podcast platform you're listening to us on. Appreciate all of you everydayers. First listen every single day. I appreciate all of you guys. Before we wrap up, let me know in the comment section or over on Twitter. I've had a few of you guys, or in the reviews on Apple, on Spotify, wherever you guys are listening to this. Let me know. I've had a few people saying that they felt like the audio isn't loud enough. Now, I've had people in the past, I lowered it, Because I've had people in the past say, you guys know I'm passionate, and I talk loudly, like my wife deals with this all the time. I talk loudly, and it doesn't feel like right now I don't feel like I'm yelling, but I'm assuming if my wife came in, she would say, Ku, you're talking too loud. Like, it's just how I've always, like, I'm just, I guess passionate is the word, but I've always just talked about like this way. Always just had a loud voice. So my point is, I lowered the audio. Over the last few weeks, I've had a few of you guys say, hey, Ku, can you turn the volume back up? It's not loud enough for me. So let me know. I'm going to turn the volume up on this episode. I'm going to bump it up just a little bit. Let me know if the audio is good enough for you guys. I want to make sure I have it at the perfect spot. If you guys feel like it's too loud, let me know. If it's still not loud enough, let me know. I want to hear from you guys. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Appreciate all of you guys. Stay safe out there. And until next time, everybody, stay safe and peace out.